Major Tom. Out of the three of us, Miranda had almost always been the sweetest to August, hugging him and playing with him long after Ella and I had moved on to playing with something else. Even as we got older, Miranda always made sure to include August in our conversations. Ask him how he was doing, talk to him about Avatar or Star Wars or Bone or something she knew he liked. It was Miranda who had also given Augie the astronaut helmet he wore practically every day of the year when he was 5 or 6. She would call him Major Tom, and they would sing Space Oddity by David Bowie together. It was their little thing. They knew all the words, and they would blast it on the iPad, singing the song out loud. Since Miranda's always been really good about calling us as soon as she got home from summer camp, I was a little surprised when I didn't hear from her. I even texted her and she didn't reply. I figured maybe she had ended up staying in the camp longer now that she was a counselor. Maybe she met a cute guy. Then I realized from her Facebook wall that she actually had been home for a full 2 weeks, and I sent her an IM and we chatted online a bit, but she didn't give me a reason for not calling, which I thought was bizarre. Miranda had always been a little flaky, so I figured that was all it was. We made plans to meet downtown, but then I had to cancel because we were driving out to visit Tata and Papa for the weekend. So I ended up not seeing Miranda or Ellen until the first day of school, and I have to admit, I was shocked. Miranda looked so different. Her hair was cut in this super cute bob that she dyed bright pink of all things, and she was wearing a striped tube top that A, seemed inappropriate for school, and B, was totally not her usual style. Miranda had always been such a prude about clothes, and here she was all pink-haired and tube-topped. But it wasn't just the way that she looked that was different. She was acting differently too. I can't say that she wasn't nice, because she was, but she just seemed kind of distant. Like I was just a casual friend. It was the weirdest thing in the world. At lunch, the three of us sat together like we always do, but the dynamics had shifted. It was obvious to me that Ella and Miranda had gotten together a few times during the summer without me, though they never actually said that. I pretended not to be all upset while we talked, though I could feel my face getting hot, my smile being fake. Although Ella wasn't over the top as Miranda, I noticed a change in her usual style too. It's like they had talked to each other beforehand about redoing their image at the new school, but hadn't bothered to clue me in. I admit, I had always thought that I was above that kind of typical teenage pettiness, but I felt a lump in my throat after lunch. My voice quivered as I said, "See you later," when the bell rang. After school, "I hear that we are driving you home today." It was Miranda in 8th period. She had just sat down at the desk behind me. I had forgotten that my mom called Miranda's mother the night before to ask if she could drive me home for school. "You don't have to," I answered instinctively, casually. "My mom can pick me up." I thought she had to pick up Augie or something. It turns out she can pick me up afterwards. She just texted me, not a problem. "Oh, okay, thanks." It was all a lie on my part, but I couldn't see sitting in the car with the new Miranda. After school, I ducked into the restroom to avoid bumping into Miranda's mother outside. Half an hour later, I walked out of the school, ran 3 blocks to the bus stop, hopped on the M86 to Central Park West, and took the subway home. "Hey there, sweetie," Mom said at the moment I walked in the front door. "How was your first day? I was starting to wonder where you guys were." "We stopped to get pizza." Incredible how easily a lie can slip right through your lips. "Is Miranda not with you?" She seemed surprised that Miranda wasn't behind me. She went straight home. We had a lot of homework. "On your first day?" "Yes, on our first day," I yelled, which completely surprised Mom. Before she could say anything, I said, "School was fine. It's really big, though. The kids seem nice." I wanted to give her some more information so that she wouldn't feel the need to keep asking more. "How was Augie's first day of school?" Mom hesitated, her eyebrows still high up on her forehead from when I snapped at her a second earlier. "Okay," she said slowly, like she was letting out a breath. "What do you mean, okay?" I said. "Was it good or bad?" He said it was good. "So why do you think it wasn't good?" "I didn't say it wasn't good. Geez, Via, what's up with you?" Don't forget I asked anything at all. I answered and stormed dramatically into Augie's room and slammed the door. He was on his PlayStation and didn't even look up. I hated how zombified his video games made him. So, how was school? I said, scooching Daisy over so that I could sit on the bed next to him. Fine, he answered, still not looking up from his game. Augie, I'm talking to you. I pulled the PlayStation out of his hands. Hey, he said angrily. How was school? I said, fine, he yelled back, grabbing the PlayStation back from me. Were people nice to you? Yes. No one was mean? He put the PlayStation down and looked up at me as if I had just asked the dumbest question in the world. Why would people be mean? He said. It was the first time in his life that I'd ever heard him be sarcastic like that. I didn't think he had it in him. The Palawan bites the dust. I am not sure at what point that night Augie cut off his Palawan braid, or why that made me really mad. I'd always found his obsession with everything Star Wars kind of geeky, and that braid in the back of his hair with the little beads was just awful. But he had always been so proud of it, of how long it took him to grow it, of how he had chosen the beads himself in the craft store in Soho. He and Christopher, his best friend, used to play with lightsabers and Star Wars stuff whenever they got together. And they both had started growing their braids at the same time. When August cut his braid off that night, without an explanation, without telling me beforehand, which was surprising, or even calling Christopher, I was just so upset I can't even explain why. I've seen Augie brushing his hair in the bathroom mirror. He meticulously tries to get every hair in place. He tilts his head to look at himself from different angles, like there's some magic perspective inside the mirror that could change the dimensions of his face. Mom knocked on the door after dinner. She looked drained, and I realized between me and Augie, today had been a tough day for her too. So, do you want to tell me what's up? She asked nicely, softly. Not now, okay, I answered. I was reading. I was tired. Maybe later I'd be up to telling her about Miranda, but not now. I'll check in on you before you go to bed, she said, and then she came over and kissed me on the top of my head. Can Daisy come sleep with me tonight? Sure, I'll bring her up later. Don't forget to come back, I said as she left. I promise. But she didn't come back that night. Dad did. He told me that Augie had had a bad first day and that Mom was helping him through it. He asked me how my day had gone, and I told him it was fine. He said he didn't believe me for 1 second, and I told him that Miranda and Ella were acting like jerks. I didn't mention how I had taken the subway home by myself, though. He said nothing tests a friendship like high school, and then proceeded to poke fun at the fact that I was reading War and Peace. Not real fun, of course, since I had heard him brag to people that his 15-year-old who was reading Tolstoy. But he liked to rib me about where I was in the book, in a war part or in a peace part, and if there was anything in there about Napoleon's days as a hip-hop dancer. It was silly stuff, but Dad always managed to make everyone laugh. And sometimes that's all you need to feel better. Don't be mad at Mom, he said as he bent down to give me a goodnight kiss. You know how much she worries about Augie. I know, I acknowledged. Want the lights on or off? It's getting kind of late, he said, pausing by the light switch by the door. Can you bring Daisy first? 2 seconds later, he came down with Daisy dangling in his arms, and he laid her down next to me on the bed. Good night, sweetheart, he said, kissing me on the forehead. He kissed Daisy on her forehead, too. Good night, girlie. Sweet dreams. An apparition at the door. Once I got up in the middle of the night because I was thirsty, and I saw Mom standing outside of Augie's room. Her hand was on the doorknob. Her forehead was leaning on the door, which was ajar. She wasn't going into his room or stepping out, just standing right outside the door as if she was listening to the sound of his breath as he slept. The hall lights were out. The only illuminating was her blue nightlight in August's bedroom. She looked ghost-like standing there, or maybe I should say angelic. I tried to walk back into my room without disturbing her, but she heard me and she walked over to me. Is Augie okay? I asked. I knew that sometimes he would wake up choking on his own saliva if he accidentally turned over on his back. Oh, he's fine, she said, wrapping her arms around me. She walked back into my room, pulled the covers over me, and kissed me goodnight. She never explained to me what she was doing outside of his door, and I never asked. I wonder how many nights she stood outside of his door, and I wonder if she ever stood outside of my door like that. Breakfast. Can you pick me up from school today? I said the next morning, smearing some cream cheese on my bagel. Mom was making August's lunch, American cheese on whole wheat bread, soft enough for Augie to eat, while August sat eating oatmeal at the table. Dad was getting ready to go to work. Now that I was in high school, the new school routine would be that Dad and I would take the subway together in the morning, which meant that he would have to leave 15 minutes earlier than usual. Then I would get off at my stop and he would keep going. And Mom was going to pick me up after school in the car. I was going to call Miranda's mother to see if she could drive you home again, Mom answered. No, Mom, I said quickly. You pick me up, or I'll just take the subway. You know I do not want you to take the subway by yourself, she answered. Mom, I'm 15. Everybody my age takes the subway by themselves. She can take the subway home, said Dad from the other room, adjusting his tie as he stepped into the kitchen. Why can't Miranda's mother just pick her up again? Mom argued with him. She's old enough to take the subway by herself, Dad insisted. Mom looked at both of us. Is something going on? She didn't address her question to either one of us in particular. You would know if you had come in to check on me, I said spitefully, like you said you would. Oh God, Via, said Mom, remembering now how she had completely ditched me last night. She put down the knife she was using to cut Augie's grapes in half. Still a choking hazard for him because of the size of his palate. I am so sorry. I fell asleep in Augie's room, and by the time I woke up, I know, I nodded indifferently. Mom came over and put her hands on my cheek and lifted my face to look at her. I am really, really sorry, she whispered. I could tell she was. It's okay, I said. Via, Mom, it's fine. This time I meant it. She looked so genuinely sorry. I just wanted to let her off the hook. She kissed and hugged me, then returned to the grapes. So is something going on with Miranda? She asked. Just that she's acting like a complete jerk, I said. Miranda's not a jerk, Augie quickly chimed in. Well, she can be, I yelled. Believe me. Okay, then, I'll pick you up with no problem. Mom said decisively, sweeping the grapes into the snack bag with the side of her knife. That was the plan all along anyway. I'll pick up Augie from school in the car, and then we'll pick you up. We'll probably get there at around 3:45. No, I said firmly before she'd even finished. Isabel, she can take the subway, said Dad impatiently. She's a big girl now. She's reading War and Peace, for crying out loud. What does War and Peace have to do with anything? Answered Mom, clearly annoyed. It means that you don't have to pick her up in the car like she's a little girl, he said sternly. Via, are you ready? Get your bag and let's go. I'm ready, I said, pulling on my backpack. Bye, Mom. Bye, Augie. I kissed them quickly and headed towards the door. Do you even have a Metro card? Mom said after me. Of course she has a Metro card, answered Dad, fully exasperated. Yeesh, Mama, stop worrying so much. Bye, he said, kissing her on the cheek. Bye, big boy, he said to August, kissing him on the top of the head. I'm proud of you. Have a great day. Bye, Daddy. You too. Dad and I jogged to the stoop stairs and headed down the block. Call me after school before you get on the subway, Mom yelled at me from the window. I didn't even turn around. I waved my hand at her so that she'd know that I'd heard her. Dad turned around, walking backward for a few steps. War and Peace, Isabel. War and Peace, he called out, smiling at me.